back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Press for Truth TV. Today is Tuesday, January 29th, 2013. And today we're going to be talking about somewhat of a controversial subject. We're going to be discussing some of the things that took place at the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. And for anybody who may have looked into this event, you will find that there are a great number of inconsistencies, a lot of inaccurate reportings that happened on that day. No doubt a lot of strange anomalies that have been coming out of this. And a lot of these inconsistent reportings and inaccuracies have led to a great deal of theories out there about what may or may not have taken place on that day. And some of these theories have gotten as far as suggesting that actors may have even been hired to portray the part of the victims' family members or the eyewitness accounts. And some of these theories have even gone as far as to suggest that I may be one of these actors who took part in this black op, if you will. But joining me on the line today to talk about all of this and this whole idea of these crisis actors and how all this plays into the bigger picture is Mark Howitt. Mark's a filmmaker. He recently released a new documentary film on the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, so we're going to be getting into all that today. So Mark, thanks so much, man, for taking the time to speak with us here today at Press for Truth.
Yeah, thanks for sure. It's kind of funny how we met, eh?
Yeah, well, we'll tell the folks a little bit about why we're talking with each other here today. Basically, I made a little appearance in your film. There was an image that somebody out there made of me, which depicts me as one of these crisis actors, and it made a brief appearance in your film, and that's why we're here talking today. And we'll get into that, but why don't you start us off for the folks at home here who might not be familiar with your work. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Well, I got into this researching independent research and thinking outside of the box that they've created pretty much after 9/11 happened. When that happened, I really started seeing anomalies that were being fed to us by the government and the news, and once you start seeing this, you know what I mean, it really boggles the curiosity, I guess you could say, and got me into looking at things differently. And throughout the course of this, I just started researching more and more into many different topics, and eventually just started making independent documentaries and putting them on YouTube. I've made The Formation of Resistance was the first one, then an 8-hour long one called Evidence of Murder, which is about assassinations that have happened throughout history that kind of followed a political agenda. And 2012 Revolution, World Awakening, I put that one out in 2012 after seeing all the revolutions around the world, people revolting against government, and I knew that something was happening. I put that out in 2011 actually because I knew that 2012 would be the pinnacle year for that to happen. So I put that out in 2011. And in 2012, last year, I put out the James Holmes Conspiracy, which I kind of did a lot of independent research and investigation into that crime. And discovered a lot of things that the public were kind of seeing themselves, and they kind of related to it. And then I put out Eye of the Illuminati, which is a really extensive look at history and how the secret societies have kind of shaped history, from Egypt and even earlier than that. It's a very historical documentary. And then more recently, the Sandy Hook documentary is just Sandy Hook the documentary. I started seeing a lot of similarities between the James Holmes case and this Sandy Hook shooting, and a lot of people that watch my documentaries were recommending me to do some research on that and look into it. So that's what I did, and I made the documentary, and that's how we met, because I noticed that there was a website, wellaware1.com, that was making these ridiculous pictures of people that are apparently crisis actors, and you were one of them. There's also King Kong Bundy and John Goodman. So these are really ridiculous claims. And the mainstream media has actually picked up on these claims and kind of ridiculed everyone based upon these ridiculous claims. And because of that, it's really affecting everything. It's like a divide and conquer technique that's used by military and intelligence agencies to divide their enemy and conquer them easier that way. Maybe to make them both sides refuting, even though they're for the same cause, both sides would be left fighting each other and be left with different opinions on things. So it's kind of all strategically in there. But I started seeing a lot of crazy things, and it's, as you can tell, a lot of people are believing it because the documentaries have a lot more likes than dislikes, considerable a lot more. So obviously there's something to this, you know?
Yeah, there's something going on here, no doubt. And as you said, certain people are kind of muddying the waters and making things cloudy for folks and hard to understand. And as you said, we now have pundits like guys like Glenn Beck or Anderson Cooper who are just jumping all over this and using it as an opportunity to just lump these guys in with all researchers who look into, conspiracies. Folks, we got to remember that conspiracies do happen. Two or more people often conspire together to commit crimes. And what people like myself and Mark and others do is we investigate these and we try to point out these inaccuracies. Now, what these crisis actor theories are doing is allowing guys like Glenn Beck and them to jump all over it and lump us all into this category of crazy kind of kooks who are looking into this stuff. So maybe down the road, if you're researching something like 9/11, for example, they might say, oh, you're one of those Sandy Hook hoaxers who believes in that nonsense. So as you said, it looks like, in your opinion, do you think this is, like you said, maybe a divide and conquer tactic? Is it possibly being purposely put out there to try to get people to not look at the real information and maybe just focus on the maybe infighting that may arise from these ridiculous theories?
Definitely. Like, if you look at it from a psychological viewpoint, there's people that are affected by this tragedy, and the families in Newtown are suffering right now. They're crushed, you know what I mean, because of what's happened. And when people are out there saying that it never happened and their family members are not dead and they're all acting and they're all playing, it kind of strikes them in a way that's kind of harmful, you know what I mean, obviously, and that causes them to attack these people and want something done about it. And there's actually a petition at the White House right now to try to ban conspiracy videos in relation to the Sandy Hook conspiracy. And I've noticed on my videos even, you know what I mean, people are, it's very similar in that aspect, you know what I mean? Like, people from Newtown have messaged me saying, I can't believe you think this is a hoax, and I don't, you know what I mean? I know that they're suffering, and I've researched it, and I've come up with different conclusions, as opposed to the crisis actor theory. You'd have to watch the full documentary to understand what I'm saying, but I definitely think that this was planned well in advance. And there's lots of evidence out there to prove that, you know what I mean? There's the FEMA and the state police were training beforehand. There happened to be a child crisis seminar going on near Sandy Hook at the same day, during the same time as the shooting. I recently just discovered that on February 25th, 2011, Dr. Carver was protesting against he wanted to raise a bill, Article 1054, and what that would do would make him exempt from releasing autopsy reports on pediatric homicides to the public. So that means that children, essentially anyone under the age of 18, it would cause the Connecticut state not to release the autopsy reports to the public in regards to that. Now, that bill was passed on October 1st, 2011, which is well in advance, you know what I mean? And that's why we're seeing this gag order. Nothing's been released. One of the biggest anomalies, and everybody's asking, why weren't the parents allowed to see the bodies of their children? That is just boggling. We've never seen that before. And it's probably because in relation to this bill that Dr. Carver was fighting so hard to get passed, because he knew maybe his medical unit was going to be faced with this event, and he wanted to prepare for it in advance so they didn't have to release the information. And it's interesting to note on this fact too that one of his staff members was recently relieved of her duties because she was caught showing her husband the body of Adam Lanza. Now, why would she be showing her husband the body of Adam Lanza? Like, maybe he was interested. Adam Lanza is a celebrity or something, and he wanted to see the body, but maybe she was trying to show him something that wasn't really what we're being told about things, you know? There's a lot of questions to be asked in regards to this, so.
Well, I think, as you said, a reason why there's so many unanswered questions is because, like you said, there seems to be a lot of information that's being withheld from the public, as far as gag orders on the family members from doing interviews, as far as court information coming out, video footage, which typically in the past with these types of events, a lot of the times footage will be shown of the shooter at least entering the building or holding, the firearm that he allegedly used. We're not seeing any of that, and I think that's a lot of what a lot of people are saying are some of the strange anomalies here, is that there's a lack of footage, there's a lack of, and then like you said, we have police officers and judges saying that if you try to look into these theories and you try to report on these, you may be held liable legally. And but it's a bit of a double standard there, because all the misinformation that's coming out is coming out from the mainstream media, who's been doing inaccurate reportings.
That kind of shows you too that they were kind of expecting people to question the official story before it even happened. Really, you know what I mean? Because the Lieutenant Vance was saying that in the early, like probably the first day or second day, I'm thinking it was really early on when the crime just happened, that he was saying anybody will be potentially charged, and if they're held responsible for questioning it, providing misinformation, they say. It's pretty crazy. And it's funny that you mentioned Glenn Beck and Anderson Cooper in this too, because I got contacted by the Blaze to do an interview about the documentary. So as you know, Glenn Beck's associated with the Blaze, and that's actually after this interview I'm going to be doing that. So it's good that they're actually confronting us about this, because people that know what they're talking about and have done a lot of research can maybe finally bring some light into this and get people to really question the real questions that need to be addressed. You know what I mean? Once you get past the crisis actor theory and you start seeing like, okay, well, I guess if this did happen, there's still all the other anomalies that exist in this case that kind of make it essential to look at it and do something about it, because the victims of the families deserve that. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy that the government has lied to us again, just like 9/11, just like, the Gulf of Tonkin false flag. There's so many instances where the CIA and other intelligence agencies, the ATF, have been held accountable for their injustices, when they're supposed to be there to help the people, but really they're the biggest crime organization on the planet, directed by the United Nations. You know what I mean? If you look at the history of that, you can't even get elected in the United Nations. There's no democracy there. It's like people are placed in that circle of power, and they're running the world right now. They're trying to disarm the whole planet. You know what I mean? China's freaking out to disarm the American public, and it's and as you know, we're Canadian, so we're kind of linked with this, with the American. They're our neighbors, but Stephen Harper is really close with all this. It's all there's higher powers. You know what I mean? They're just the puppets. There's a puppet master involved.
Yeah. Now, as you said, it looks like they're starting to go for the gun grab as a result of this. And like you said before, I mean, the governments have a history of attacking their own people, setting up things, or sometimes using situations to their own advantage for a political agenda. In many circles in there, it's referred to as order out of chaos. Sometimes they'll generate the chaos in order to get the order out of it. Sometimes it's not necessary to generate the chaos. It's just necessary to pounce on a situation in order to obtain your own political agenda. What do you think about the attack on, it appears to be an attack on the Second Amendment in the United States? Do you think that that is all a part of what has been going on here? Is it about gun control?
Yeah, definitely. Because the media wouldn't be addressing it as hard as they are if it wasn't. And the United Nations is the culprit, really. It's not so much United States. In Canada recently, all firearm owners had to register their weapons, and that's just going to make it easier to disarm everyone once the United Nations starts influencing Canadian law. So it's a worldwide gun grab. It's more commonly in the United States because they do have more crimes involving guns. But it's a world thing, you know what I mean? And the Second Amendment says nothing about hunting. It's not about hunting. It's about protecting yourself against corrupt government, It's basically stands for the protection of every single free living human being on the planet. And they're attacking not only that right, but they're also attacking our freedom of speech and thought. We're entering an Orwellian world here where they're going to start suppressing your thoughts and what you're saying to the public. They've already started suppressing my videos on YouTube. There's a warning that shows up and you have to be a YouTube user to watch it. They're dulling down the hits. They're trying to like get people not to look at this kind of thing. And pretty soon we're going to see it being banned outright, and everybody's going to be stripped of their basic rights as human beings, which has slowly been happening over the centuries. If you've studied history, you'll see it. You know.
Yeah, and we have to remember that it's the information which is the important thing here. And, that's why it's important, guys like you doing the amount of investigative work that you've been doing to try to compile this information to get some understanding out of it, because we're certainly not getting it from the mainstream. We're certainly not getting it from the Connecticut police. And, we do these things for the victims' family members out of respect. We want to look into these things, but we want to do it with the utmost respect for the victims of the family members. And I think you've managed to do that, especially with being able to bring up these ridiculous conspiracy theories, even the ones involving me being a crisis actor, and being able to point out and say, we got to separate the facts from the fiction here and just get to the root of it. So I commend you for doing that work. I'd encourage folks out there to check out the film. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. And why don't you tell the folks where, if you got any websites or what your YouTube channel is for people who may want to learn some more from you.
If you just type in the name Mark Howitt, Howitt, you'll find my videos on there. I just wanted to say one thing too is if we're going to put an end to this, we can't be looking at people in the public. That's been done for too many years and nothing's been solved because of it. We have to start looking at government and the agencies like the ATF and the Central Intelligence Agency, FEMA, who have the FEMA camp set up for anybody who's going to retaliate when they try to take their guns. They're planning for this, and really the world has to wake up and start pointing their finger at the real culprit, because it's pretty bad that people like us are getting targeted for these things when it's plain to see who's the real guilty one here. So I just wanted to say that to everybody.
Key bono, folks. Key bono. Who benefits? Who benefits from these things? And when you ask that question, you'll start to find the right answers. One other thing that you just pointed on there is the fact that we are under attack. And I am seeing a huge increase lately in the amount of, just this idea that conspiracy researchers or anybody who's involved with these things are potentially, some people go as far as calling us violent extremists and dangerous nutcases, and that has been increasing lately. What are your thoughts on that? Have you noticed an increase on kind of the mainstream starting to crack down on so-called conspiracy theorists?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've studied a little bit about this, and I've actually had friends who were researching things, and it kind of scared them to the point where they thought they needed medical help, and they went to see psychiatrists, psychologists, doctors, and they're always prescribed medication, antidepressants and stuff like that, and that's a real big problem. You know what I mean? You don't need that stuff. You just need nature and your own body to balance your own chemicals out, really, and your own thoughts. But when you start taking these drugs, and they're meant to dull you down and keep you in a state of mind where you don't question anything, you know what I mean? So they're actually relating conspiracy theorists now to mental illnesses, which is pretty scary, you know what I mean? If you have an independent thought or you think against the government and what they're doing, you're considered crazy. Yeah, a basic example of this is if you take the word governmental, it's a very basic thing. It's govern and mental. Govern means to control, and mental means your mind. So really, you got to be in control of your own mind here. You can't let these people scare you, and you've got to really stand up for your rights and make sure that you let everybody around you know what's going on. Because without like you said, you know what I mean, it's in the information. That's the finite point of it all is the information. Once you know, knowing is half the battle, right?
That's it. And it looks like we're apparently having somewhat of an effect. We seem to be on the right track here when the government is trying to demonize an entire movement like that. If we weren't onto something here, they would just simply ignore it, but they just simply can't ignore it anymore. So again, man, I want to thank you for your work, and glad that we got it all straightened out there. I know now, you know, where you're coming from. And again, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. Good luck, man, later today talking to those guys. You know, they may try to rope you into some things, and so just be careful with your wording there. But I'm sure you'll do fine.
Yeah, they're known for that, so I don't know if I'll be speaking to Glenn Beck directly or anybody, but you know what I mean? It's good that they're actually coming forward and actually addressing this issue, because honestly, it's definitely an issue that can't be ignored, so it's cool.
Yeah, the waters have been muddied, and it's time for them to be cleared. Again, man, thank you very much. I'll put links in the description where people can check out more from you. And again, appreciate you coming on today, and good luck with your interview later on today.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, man, take care.
Talk to you soon.
Yep,
Ciao.
see ya. Bye.